that will make you excited if you're into math, and we used to have to do them but longhand before. What the app allows me to do is to see all kinds of different combinations of plumbing and row spacing to get a precipitation rate. Remember when we were talking over there with that big fancy board that had all the California stuff on there? Remember what I was trying to get?
Evaporation, transpiration.
14.
ET?
8.3.
Did you say it?
Evaporation and transpiration.
You're close.
Uh,
I want to know how many inches per hour I'm putting out of the system. 0.4 gallons per hour by, what's the next number it says?
18.
18, you got it, 18 inch. Now, how far apart is my row?
12.
12. We put that in there, can you see that? Lateral, 12. Guess what that gives me? Application rate, inches per hour. What do I do with that 0.45 number now? I know that from the other chart it showed us that 8.68 inches in July. That's the highest number of the year. In July, we do the math and we can divide it out. Now, I'll do it really quickly because I don't have it memorized because I'm not that good. 8.68 divided by 0.45 equals 19 hours. That's how long you would need to run this system in July, if it was an average July, in order to replace what?
8 point something ET.
ET. That's not giving the plant any water to be healthy. It's just replacing on average what is going on. Now this is where this product's really cool. If we have a smart controller, guess what happens? The smart controller is actually getting data in real time. What's actually happening? Is it hotter than it normally is? Yes, it is today. Guess what the ET number is going to be
Higher.
from the average? It's going to be higher. The sensor, which can be as simple as a little unit on the house for 150 to 200 bucks, 500 installed. If it's a single story. Just tease you guys. With that little sensor, we'll adjust the water budget up and down. So if I put into the controller 19 hours, so let's go times 60. How many is that? That's 1,157 minutes over the course of the month. So we take that number, divide it by 30, gives me 38.5. How many minutes do I run the controller a day for the precipitation rate that we were just talking about? 38 minutes. 38 minutes. Guess what happens? Today's hotter, and it tells it, you know what, the ET is higher than it normally is. The controller, if it's a smart controller, this is where the smart part comes in. I've got this number that I can put into it. The controller will put that percentage up higher, so it'll actually give a little more water that day.
Now that controller, that's 500 on a one star.
I'm just teasing. Depends on the house. So actually, your water district will rebate you the money to put it in. They'll pay you the money to put this kind of controller in. But when I show up, I go and I see, where's the drip thing? Grab that just a little way, right behind you. The little tubing. Spring that up, spring that up. I walk to your house and I see this going on. I got this emitter over here, I got this little spray thing going off of it, I got the little dialy thing, and you go, I want to put the smart controller on. No thank you. I don't know what the number is. I can't put a number in your controller for you. So then we start, and then we go back to this. And we can do it with a lot of different things. I can do that precipitation rate with that barb fitting right there. That barb fitting right there is a pressure compensating half-gallon per hour emitter. Now, if I put them in every 12 inches, every 18 inches, and space them out in this, I can do the same thing. But why? It's already done. We got a product that already does it for us. So, how many minutes we run it is 38. The water budget will automatically kick it down. I'm telling you, you put a layer of mulch on this, we're not even putting enough water back on the ground. Running it every day to replace ET. If we have this type of system, a thin layer of compost down and a nice thick layer of mulch. And the number one problem I see from plants and water is overwater. 90% of the time, in fact, it's from someplace, was it Davis, UC Davis? I don't know if they're any good at that stuff or not, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal. 90% of the time, seriously, it's that big of a problem. So we're going to cut in 2 more fittings, and then we're going to turn this on, and you're going to see those little drawings that have the little map going, oh, the water moves this way. You're going to see that start happening right here. You guys did it.
How do you flush that system?
I've got one flush point up there. Louise, will you jump in and connect that?
that?
What app was he using to do all those calculations? though? I forgot.
And a little piece of pipe.
Tea and a little piece of pie.
How much? Like a foot? What?
So he puts the hose in.
Yeah, just toss it on.
Oh, you got it.
Okay, so the hose has to go into that thing. I know, right? It's open. I better move, yes. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this is exciting. I'm just thinking of all the hot days last year. I mean, I know we didn't want
I don't either. Let's flush it so we don't have to guess. Okay, so that's a real complicated.
So what'd you do there that you...
I'm gonna put the
Explain
other
it.
piece on. We're connected to that. Do we have water on?
Water is on.
Oh, we're not plugged on this end.
Full blast.
Oh, turn off the, yeah.
Full blast. Nope, full blast.
Oh, we need a plug.
Full blast.
Oh, okay. We got a plug.
That's our
Full blast.
That's
Full
it.
blast.
That's it.
This is why understanding what the numbers are on your system, your source, is so important. Now, if I would have put a pressure regulator on here, we would have just wasted $20 because I don't have enough pressure to even be concerned with it on this. This product specifications are 50 psi. That means I don't need a pressure regulator on it unless I'm running past that. In your home systems from a water supplier, it will go up and down. Don't be silly and not regulate your pressure. This product, I regulate it to 40 psi just to make sure. You pull that down. Just push it down. See that elbow should swing. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. The reason is because it's not got a lot on it, so we just want to get that debris. So when we were putting those joints together down at the end, something might have slipped in. When we were laying it down here, something might have slipped in. All we're doing is flushing the system, and that does take a minute.
And why are we flushing it?
That was a terrible throw. Is the valve open?
I'm gonna post them on YouTube
Probably.
so we can go and watch them because that's so much information you can remember. I'll tell my husband to ask you to either send them to
Did you get it on there all the way?
post them on YouTube.
You want to turn off the valve?
Yeah. He's got it now. He's got it. Okay, that part that he just put on, does everybody know what that was?
That would be a shut-off, wouldn't it?
No, leave it on, leave it on. It's a flow control valve, a shut-off valve, a flush valve. It's literally a quarter turn. So please feel free to bounce it. All that does is allow us to leave an opening at the end to move any of that material out. So our supply line in this case is a hose to a filter. Do not skimp on this part. If you're buying this, if you're doing this yourself, do not skimp on it. It is still stainless steel screen. It's a better way to go. There's all kinds of different prices on them. There's all types of filtration meshes on them. This likes a higher mesh control. This is a really cool filter and it's inexpensive, relatively speaking. Comes in, this is our supply header. So this is what we all made together sitting down and nobody knew what the heck we were doing. We were making the part that actually feeds the tubing. The tubing is in place now. We already know what the specs are on it, right? 0.4 gallons per hour, 18-inch spacing, and a 12-inch row. A pretty dang good job for first timers, I'll tell you right now. I wouldn't yell at you and make this, pick this up if you were working for me.
Are you hiring?
Except for right there. But now he knows, because he was just trying to do the emitter like I showed him at the beginning, but he was so fast, he got down there. I just needed a straight line. Didn't matter where the emitters ended up being. We just needed a straight line here. So this looks really kind of funny, and this happens all the time. I see this all the time. This is an easy fix. We cut it, pull it out, couple it back together. It's fine though, the water will work. If you're planting your vegetables here, don't plant it over here where there's no emitter at though. You got a tubing over it. Let's try to get it back in place. Okay, so we can tighten that up and make it work. Water comes through. Notice what it's doing. It's coming in the middle, splitting out, coming down all the rows into what's called an exhaust header. Same thing. Guess what happens? This ever gets pinched off in the middle, it's being fed from this direction also. Being fed from this direction. This is really good in landscapes because if you have correct headers on them, it's being fed from two sides. Are we almost there?
As in PG&E came into my landscape and moved a rock and chopped in, and then they put the rock back. I don't know how they fixed it, but because this is how my irrigation is, I don't have to worry about it. My plants still get irrigation. Even though the rock is sitting on the line, it's fed both sides. Oh. Gotta love you.
Did everybody hear me say, don't hit the tubing with the staple? Right.
Did somebody?
That one has.
Hear that?
Oh.
That's the noise we want to hear. So what happened is, out of probably 500 staples through here, all this, we'll see.
What was that? Is that a fitting?
This was probably a bad cut. We'll see. Very hot. Somebody had a tool that wasn't very sharp. So where's? No, you're fine. With the fittings, try to get them as tight as possible. That doesn't happen a lot, but that's what happens if you don't have it set all the way. It's usually having a cleaner cut too, and I know you didn't have a sharp enough tool, but that's what happens there.
You're just in the wrong place at the wrong time now.
I have had before bad emitters. There was a bad emitter in the tubing. You know, you do miles of this. Guess what? Every once in a while, one's bad. It's very rare, but it happens. This is the most common thing I see when we're installing it. The second most common thing I see is pruners. A bush comes down right here, and instead of going, I'm going to cut that branch, we just go like this. Or we take the down to it. It'll take a pretty decent hit. You can actually get pretty close to it with a shovel. So this, whoever did this, thank you. That was the best spot to do it. There's an emitter right here. There's an emitter right here. I can couple this without repairing a whole splice of this thing. And that was a dang good install, guys. I'm super impressed. That's... Since I put that together, we're not going to take that out. No, I think I need a little more tip on it.
This has got how you're going to repair in between emitters.
Yeah, this is a good lesson actually.
Yeah, because I got to do that.
Church guys, this is a good lesson. Yeah, all the way off.
You need to pay attention.
You need some water.
Oh, that was a nick with the staples?
Yeah,
Yes.
very common. Even I've done it once.
That was our row. I don't know about that.
Once in time.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Come here. See where the hole's at? Do you see where the hole's at?
Yeah. Right there.
If this happens and you've got just a little tiny nick like this, cut it directly into that spot, okay?
Okay. Cut into the hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you guys see how hard it is to push?
Yeah.
Guess what? If we put these guys together and then we use them against each other, oh my goodness.
That's it?
Okay, let's turn it on. Let's see what we got.
Turn it back on.
Normally I would say flush this, but you're dealing with a professional. I made sure no dirt got into it.
If I find dirt in it later.
Notice how you didn't hear a big, you hear it a little bit because I exposed it right there. It's holding the water inside the system. So the first time when we sealed it all off, you heard that big whistle? That's we're excited because we hear the whistle the first time. After that, it should hold the water for the most part in the system and we shouldn't have a lot of air pushing out. See how these wetting patterns are starting to happen already? It's like magic.
The question I asked earlier about the holes going up and down.
Yeah, thank you. I think she's asked more than once. Oh, I got you. This is where I was going to talk about it. So where I've had you pin it tight, I got good soil contact. You can't even see the soil on the top or the moisture on top yet on this spot because I got really good contact with the soil here. This spot here, see how I can see the water dripping? That's not good soil contact at all. We always want to have good soil contact. So whether it's up and facing this way, I don't care. What I do is another step when I'm installing this is another thin layer of compost. That thin layer of compost, which is why I have you staple it in so many places, I can then take like a light rake over the top of it and get it leveled up to the top of the pipe. I still want to be able to see the pipe though, but just barely. Then you see these little droplets that are starting will touch that compost and it will actually wick and help to pull it across.
So the water travels faster if it's touching the soil.
Depends on the type of soil that it is though. So it's going to move faster in some soils and it'll move slower in others. The compost just works like a wick because it's got really big pores and it'll draw it faster.
Now this you need 38 minutes.
For what though?
July.
In the month of July.
The month of July.
Yeah, for the month of July.
Although it feels like July.
It sure does.
So what does a system like this cost?
What do I charge or what does
Yeah,
it
it's
cost?
installed.
Oh.
This is a Home Depot product. They have products that are similar. Please, 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 whatever you do, read the manufacturer's instructions with it. They'll give you the directions on how to install it. I don't need you to buy this product or a Rainbird, it doesn't matter. They work very similar. The biggest thing is make sure that you're installing it with all the components. If they say to use a 120 mesh filter on it, don't use 100. This one says to use 140 mesh on it. I'm not using 120 mesh, there's a 140 mesh filter in there. Follow those little things and it'll save you the headache down the road. You'll save $3 today and spend $300 tomorrow trying to replace that.
Yeah, but we noticed you skipped the amount of the price.
It depends. I charge between $1.75 and $3 a linear foot.
Okay.
And that's because it equates to a square foot. So this is the easiest way to install it with an open area. When you're digging through plants and root systems and boxing around trees and changing elevations and just all the things you can think about in a landscape, it can be very expensive time-wise. So that's where there's a big gap in that number. Very, very, very good knee pads. I mean, this is the first day I haven't had a pair of knee pads on in probably a month. Except for Easter, I didn't use them then. I had to stay home that day.
How about you didn't go looking for eggs?
No, we went to church and went to brunch. That was it. But I didn't have my knee pads on at church. That was funny.
So this would be really good for, it would be okay for raised beds too, but I'm just thinking of not tilling, you know, because I don't want to till.
Good.
And this would work fine for a non-till. Would it also work fine for
It works better when it isn't tilled. The reason why the water's moving in all kinds of funky patterns here is because it's been disturbed and it's not native soil.
Got it.
On a native soil, this is not good for raised beds. On a native soil, it works better. But again, that's assuming that we understand what the soil is.
Exactly.
This product doesn't work on that bed up there. I have another roll over there that looks exactly the same as this, but it's completely different. So we apply water. This one I already spec'd out. This one, do we have a tape measure? There might be a tape measure in that box.
It's 8 foot by 3 foot.
Got it. 12 by 4.
I already know.
I won't throw it because I'm a terrible throw.
Toss it.
You don't want to get hit in the head.
This is nice, this box, is because it gives us edges. Netafin specs are is that we would have a 2 to 4 inch spacing off the edge of a hardscape. Hardscape could be concrete, it could be a wood bed, doesn't matter. I've cheated already and done the math on this one. So this bed is actually a 38 inch opening. 2 inches off, 2 inches off. That math equates to 8.5 inches between. So each one of these flags are at 8.5 inches. There's 5 rows in these beds. I hear a lot on Farmer Fred. I listen to him practically every Sunday. I hear him, you can do 1 or 2. It does not work in this. Try to do the ribbon test on this, what we just did. That doesn't mean that you can't grow vegetables in here. That's not the problem. You have to know what the soil is. The product that we have over there is a 0.9 per hour emitter at 12-inch spacing. So I would be putting water down, say it's here, a foot away, then I rotate. I've got 8 inches between. Our handy dandy little app, I can put that in there. It actually gives me a precipitation rate of almost 2 inches an hour. But the water is going to go straight through this. It's not going to stay, it's not going to hold in it. So we have to water it. Sometimes even multiple starts in raised boxes I have to do. So, how are we doing on time?
It's 10 tills. So we stopped
this
at
one?
210. Yeah, we stopped at 210. And I don't know. Yeah. Let that go.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll walk it back over and just talk about
Absolutely. Maybe this is a good time for questions too. Is that okay? Questions? Anything?
The app you're using is from Netafin?
From anything. Irrigation questions,
No,
regards
your app,
to what we're...
the app that you're using, is that from Netafin?
Oh yeah.
We want that.
If you're using this product, it allows you to figure out and spec everything, and it literally asks you to select everything. What's the soil type? And then it'll recommend. This soil type right here, it recommended 0.26 gallons per hour, 18 by 18 spread. So we're planting very, very tight because we have an amended soil on top, and it's a vegetable garden, which means I usually have little babies in there quite often, and I want the water to be a little closer together so we can keep them alive to get them started. So on a native established soil though, you can have them further apart, which means that you can do a lot more area. Think if we took those rows and I was able to spread them out to 18 or 24. I just took the number of fittings that I used, cut it in half at 24. So again, understanding the soil means we're not just putting down material for the heck of it, we're putting it down to do the job of watering the soil that we've got.
So how would you do a raised bed if your landscape is sloped?